we're not looking at a sudden stop to the economy, more a slow moderation.
Good morning. It is Jobs Report Friday, and anxiety was a bit higher heading into this one. Not only is it our first full month of data since Liberation Day, but we also saw jobless claims unexpectedly rise last week. Even so, the labor market has managed to stay pretty resilient in 2025. Our chief investment strategist, Marta Norton, is here. And Marta, you just looked through the numbers. What stands out to you in this one?
Resilience is still the story here, Vanessa. So unemployment rate held steady at 4.2%. We saw 139,000 jobs added to payrolls. And we also saw wages tick up by 0.4% in May. There are some areas of weakness that folks will be talking about. So for example, when we take a look at the prior 2 months, we saw those months revise back down to the tune of 95,000 jobs. And we also saw the participation rate, which is measuring the percentage of Americans who are in the labor force, that ticked down as well.
So, Marta, when you dig a little bit deeper, what shifts or trends do you see beneath those headline numbers?
Well, we are beginning to see a bit of a Doge effect in the labor data. So when we take a look at the federal jobs, those came down to the tune of 22,000 jobs this month. And we've seen 59,000 jobs come out of the federal workforce over the course of the year thus far. That weakness was offset by strength in particular areas of the labor market. So leisure and hospitality, for example, healthcare, those were real areas of strength that added quite a bit to the overall report.
Yeah, companies seem to be taking a wait and see approach here, not rushing to hire, but they're also not making major layoffs. So what does that cautious stance tell you about the overall economy, especially as we get into the second half of the year now?
I think that cautious stance is really a reflection of the uncertainty that we have. And you can really see the caution when you combine this report with other reports. So for example, the JOLTS data, which is looking at turnover, quits, hiring, layoffs. There we see that layoffs are remaining on a pretty low pace. And yet we're seeing quits, or people who are voluntarily leaving their jobs, come down meaningfully. We're also seeing hiring meaningfully slow. And so when folks are complaining about the labor market, it's really those effects that they're feeling.
And I imagine this won't have much impact on the Fed.
Yeah. So the expectation, of course, with the Fed, whose focus is the labor market, is inflation, is that this report isn't going to push the Fed to act any faster. In fact, we could see the Fed think that the labor market is pretty solid and actually remain on hold for longer. I think what we're seeing as we take a look at all the fiscal policy shifts is that we're not looking at a sudden stop to the economy, more a slow moderation.
Great perspective as always, Marta Norton. Thank you so much. We know the next big data point right around the corner. The May inflation report comes out on Wednesday, and we'll be back then with Marta's full analysis. Have a great weekend.